10 things I wish I knew in my 20s before healing my anxious attachment style. Watch this episode before you are in your 30s, especially if you're an overthinker, a people pleaser, someone who's anxiously attached. These lessons would have saved me years of emotional pain, confusion, and self-abandonment. I really wish I hadn't wasted so much of my years on things that kept me small. If you are in your 20s right now, you're so lucky because you've got the whole world ahead of you. And while I can honestly say my 30s have been some of my best years, it's only because I went through some emotional crashes, hard lessons, some really ups and downs that showed me who I am, what I don't want to do anymore, what I don't want to be anymore, parts I want to let go and parts who I want to grow and develop, and how I really stepped into the best version of myself and things I will never settle for again. Because here's what's different. In your 30s, especially when you're approaching 40s like me, the clock starts ticking and you can really feel it. You start thinking seriously about money, your career, stability, security, and there is, you're running against the time. You're realizing that how you spend your 20s either set you up for success or make things so much harder and set you up for failure. And yes, my setbacks have made me to who I am now, but there's also so many things that I wish I would have known sooner. I wasted so much time on being online, overthinking things, friendship I had to chase, partners who didn't really want me, staying way too long in relationships I knew that were not right, constantly talking down to myself, and living too much in my comfort zone rather than seeing, what is out there? What are all the possibilities? And the truth, our brains love the familiar, even when it's hurting us. That's how anxious attachment works. The pattern feels like home. That's when it's chaos. But the moment you start questioning that, when you learn to step outside of the survival mode and start to self-trust, that's when everything can change. So today I'm sharing 10 plus lessons, probably, I wish I would have known in my 20s, things that I would have saved me years of anxiety, people pleasing, feeling not good enough. Let's go. By the way, hi, I'm Yula. I'm the Anxious to Secure coach, and welcome to the Anxious to Secure podcast. Disclaimer, I'm not a therapist or doctor. This content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, or heal any mental health condition. If you're in an abusive relationship or dealing with severe mental health challenges, always seek professional advice. Lesson 1 is all about the energy I wasted for not speaking up. So I used to bite my tongue to keep the peace, let things slide, laugh when something hurt, smile when I wanted to scream. I thought keeping things light would keep people close to me and I would be liked and not abandoned and it wouldn't hurt. But it only kept me invisible. It would shrink who I was. I abandoned my own self. I wasn't standing up for my own true wants, needs. I was allowing other people to bully me, even though it was in small, tiny ways, but it chipped away more and more of my self-esteem. Now I know when you don't speak up for yourself, you abandon yourself first. Why? Because anxious attachment makes you fear conflict, rejection the most. You believe if you upset someone, they will leave eventually. But real safety comes from knowing I can be honest and still be loved. You repel some energy, some people, but you also attract the right people for you. Not everything is meant for you, but the right people will always come to you. The more authentic you are, the more you're able to speak up for yourself. The second lesson is fitting in isn't the same as belonging. Back then, I thought I had to shrink to be liked, look perfect, or look a certain way, never be too much or had to be more, better in saying the right things to boys or girls. I judged every word, outfit, expression, was very hypervigilant. And actually, looking back, every time when I look back on my childhood, or my teenager years, or my 20s and even 30s now, I was so much prettier than I thought. I wasn't a supermodel, but I was so much prettier than I thought, and I was telling myself. We are our biggest enemy and bully ourselves, especially if you have an anxious attachment style. We always think everyone else is so pretty, they're all so amazing, and we never realize how amazing we are. We never see what others see. or what you might see a few years later. But at that time, I didn't feel like it because I was comparing myself too much with other people, with other standards. And who knows, they probably also had self-doubt and were comparing themselves to other people. True belonging doesn't come from being liked by everyone. It comes from liking yourself enough to be seen, even when you feel too loud, too weird, too sensitive, too different. Lesson 3, if I had learned social skills earlier, because nowadays you can learn everything online, I could have avoided years of social anxiety. So social anxiety is often evolved with shame and fear of rejection and believing everyone is watching you. But what I have learned, that it is a learned skill to make eye contact, to have small talk, to sit in silence and not make it mean anything about the conversation, about the other person, that they don't like you, that you have to do something different. And even people who are amazing at it, where you think, oh my God, they are so skilled at it, they have learned it because they maybe grew up in an environment where everyone was very good with their words and were very self-confident. But if you grew up in a different environment where you maybe didn't have this kind of self-confidence from other people, maybe you never developed a skill. So now you can create the skill by just watching YouTube videos, podcasts, just Googling, practicing, investing even in courses, watching other people do this and just copying it. By taking action, everything is possible. But it starts with realizing, hey, this is a problem and this is what I can do. Because I only learned, I think, when I was 32 that I had social anxiety. And then I started to do something about this. The next lesson I've learned from my 20s is alcohol is not a shortcut to confidence. Nowadays, I hardly ever drink, only when I want to, maybe twice a month, and just like 1 or 2 glasses. I don't have to drink to feel confident. I don't have to do something as a layer. Yes, liquid is courage and it's going to be fun for a season. You can have wild 20s, but I learned the hard way that it can ruin relationships. It can ruin momentum because it can really bring out the ugliest version of yourself. You're not really in control of what you're saying or doing. It can bring out the ugliest version of myself. For example, I realized in my past relationship, whenever my partner and I drank, that we got into arguments, into conflict, and they got very ugly and I couldn't handle my emotions. And next day it was like, we were completely zoned out and exhausted and drained. And there was a cycle of every time when we had too much to drink, we didn't know how to stop. And this was a huge dark part of my past relationship. And it can become a coping tool for some people. So I didn't know my limits at that time. Sometimes I used alcohol to escape social fear, shame, loneliness, to become more confident. And it led to nights of regrets, so much conflict and argument and pain and words I didn't mean. And my partner even overstepped lines as well and had more and more to drink, and it never ended good. True confidence is built, not poured. And 5, hanging out with the wrong people just to be liked is also self-abandonment. I chased approval from people who didn't really see me, and it left me being lonelier than being alone. If you have to shrink, gossip, or play games to be liked, they are not your people. I wish I would have stayed home, learned more skills, painted, explored YouTube tutorials, journaled, learned coping skills like meditation, grounding tools, developed new passions, invested in myself, in courses to learn things about myself, to be excited about life, to create goals and dreams. Anything to get myself to know more. Because when you know yourself, you stop settling for less. In anxious attachment, loneliness can feel very unbearable, so we cling to crumbs, anything they give us. But real healing is learning to self-soothe the loneliness, realizing loneliness doesn't mean being lonely, not to escape it, but to embrace it. And 6 is I've learned that You can't let other people, even your parents, dictate your opinions, or you don't need to chase for their approval. As an anxious attachment style, you really want other people's approval, especially your partners. But even more, you want your parents' approval, your moms and your dads. And if you make career choices or any other bigger decisions and your parents are not directly on board with this can cut very, very deep. You don't have to do what other people tell you to do. Yes, they're older and have lots of more life experiences, but nobody is you. Nobody knows your thoughts and core beliefs and dreams and passions. And maybe your parents are no risk takers, but maybe you have this in you, and maybe it would lead you to so much more success. You don't always have to do something just because someone else tells you to do this. I used to think I needed their approval to feel safe. Even when there was a conflict with my mom once and we didn't talk for a few weeks, or there was like tension between us for a couple of months, that was literally killing me. And realizing, you know what, you can have a conflict with your mom, you can share different opinions, and it's okay, it's safe to have some silence between each other. You don't need to just people please or fawn or to make up for things even if you're not aligned with it. See what you can learn from this. Only in my 30s I've realized love doesn't mean agreement, and being grown up also means grieving the approval you never really got. This is called earned security. You rewrite the internal compass to follow your own values, not fear of their reaction or disapproval. Lesson 7. Overgiving in my first relationship destroyed my self-worth. So I paid for things, most of the things. I overextended emotionally. I made excuses for bad behaviors. And when he then finally cheated on me and it came out, I forgave him that night because he cried and begged and put himself into this victim role instead of giving me time to process this and then seeing, hey, where are we at? Why? Because anxious attachment taught me love equals sacrifice, that I can't live without that person. I thought if I just gave enough, I would be chosen, I would be valuable. But you can't trade self-respect for connection. That's not love, that's fear. Real love has boundaries and self-respect, and you have standards for yourself. You can forgive, sure, once, but not with pressure, not making me feel guilty, not without time and space and accountability. 8. There's a difference between unavailability and avoidant attachment. People who are avoidant attached versus people who are actually avoiding you. Some people just don't want you, and that was kind of a hard pill to swallow. And I realized this very early, actually in my beginning of my 20s. I chased people who didn't want me, and you chase them harder and harder because you can't get them. That addictive loop feels like love, but it's the fantasy of being chosen. Avoidantly attached people, though, they do care, but their own fears of closeness, being vulnerable, makes them push you away. So the cycle is you pursue, they withdraw, you panic and get even closer and pursue more. They, disconnect even more until you make up a little bit, and the whole cycle starts from the beginning as soon you then pursue more or too much. And I used to confuse these two, of someone who's actually avoidant attached or someone who actually doesn't want you. I thought any chase would prove love. Everyone always tells you if they're not 100% into you, they don't want you. But it's not that simple. It's not as black and white. There's a lot of gray areas in between. 9. Attaching too fast makes fantasy feel like fate. So one DM, one flirty smile, one compliment, and I would spiral into obsession nearly. So I would be convinced that this person was maybe the one, and I already got married to the person in my head, and I dropped my routine, I canceled plans, I replied instantly and again and again. I would overshare way too soon, personal information, being very vulnerable, and trauma dumping on date 2. Thinking their attention meant that we are safe, that we are really connected and meant for each other. But secure love moves slow. It builds up gradually over time. You don't have to share everything to feel close. Pacing protects your heart and gives you space for discernment over obsession. If you have an anxious attachment style, it often feels like a drug. As soon as someone gives you attention or likes you, you feel like, oh my God, really? They like me? Just because you think so low of yourself. And then you kind of get addicted to this pattern and this person. But often you're more in love with the fantasy of that person and how this person makes you feel versus this person, because you don't actually know this person yet. That's why it's important to not bury yourself in dates and cancel everything around you, to gradually open up, to gradually meet them, to gradually let them into your life, because trust is also built gradually. And 10, your thoughts are not facts. I used to believe everyone could see my flaws. They knew I gained weight. They were all secretly laughing behind my back, that I wasn't enough, that my partner will leave eventually, all of these bad things. I jumped to conclusion when my partner had a bad day, when he was more quiet, and I thought, this is exactly what's happening. My partner's going to leave me eventually. He's not in love with me anymore. But thoughts don't equal facts. That's just an attachment system firing false alarms to keep you safe. You are not rejected. Your nervous system feels like you are, though. There's a big difference. So when you challenge your inner dialogue, how you talk to yourself, you interrupt the spiral. One neutral thought can interrupt hours of anxiety. So, and here's some bonus truth I want to share, because I'm a little bit of an oversharer as well. So the truth I wish I would have tattooed onto my soul is: 1, we are wired for negativity. So that voice in your head, not your fault. It's survival based. It wants you to keep you safe, not happy. There's a huge difference. We always think, oh, we're doing everything to be happy. But that's not right. Our brain does everything to keep us safe. That's its main job. It's not true when it tells you certain things. Most of your thoughts are not true, actually. They are 95% based on hidden fears, limiting beliefs, on your upbringing. The subconscious mind is extremely powerful. Created when you were just a little kid, first just a baby usually. And then 80% of our thoughts are negative. So imagine when you have 80% negative thoughts and 95% of them are repetitive. This is insane for how you feel every day, how you show up in your relationships and work with your friendships every day in your life if you don't become aware of them. But they're negative to protect us. So no, they absolutely can't be all true. The world is not 80% negative. It's full of magic. It's black and white, light and shadow. But what you focus on, it grows, it expands. And a daily gratitude list could have changed my life much sooner. And I'm not talking about naming 3 things you're grateful for. No, I'm going much deeper to really create deep gratitude. Like, I love to journal about really why I'm grateful to be alive, to live where I live, to have my eyesight. I thought once I lost my eyesight after weeks of a silent migraine with an aura. It's something where you see just white spots and you can't properly see. And I thought, I'm going to lose my eyesight. That made me really grateful for simple things, just being able to see things. And when I journal down like pages after pages why I'm grateful for this one thing, I really connect to this feeling, to this emotion. And this is how I can shift from only negative thoughts to much more neutral and positive thoughts in an authentic way. Bonus lesson 2 is life isn't supposed to feel amazing all the time. It's supposed to be 50-50. There is good and bad things in the world, easy things and hard things. A lot of people are always saying, oh, why does this always happen to me? Or why did this horrible thing to happen to this person? Well, because why not? Why do you think you are so special that only good things happen to you or to that person? There are so many tragic things happening in the world, to you, to your neighbor, to your family member, to everyone in the world. I believe strongly the more amazing things happen to you, the more negative things happen to you. Look at like celebrities. If they have massive success, they also have massive downfalls. So I had the expectancy when I was in my 20s that I was supposed to feel happy. And when I was feeling anxious or low and I didn't know the reason, I thought there was something wrong with me. But there's nothing wrong with you if you have a low day, if you feel anxious, if you just feel like stuck or hopeless. It's normal. But then hours later, a day later, you will feel okay again. You will feel even happy. You are just riding the emotional wave, and it's completely normal. 3 is you don't have to prove your worth to anyone. So I kept chasing validation, thinking of someone else said I was good enough, I would believe it, then it would feel true. If they would give me a compliment, if they would tell me I did something well, this would really fill my cup and I would be fulfilled, and then I would be special, then I would be lovable. But if they then don't tell you you're pretty or good enough, you will feel low all the time. If you let them decide how good enough you are, how worthy you are, you give them all the power. And nobody wants to give everyone else's the power over your own feelings, emotions, and how you show up every day, right? So don't chase for approval, chase your own approval. Give yourself all the things you are seeking right now from other people, from their world. And the belief really has to come from inside out. So no matter if you're now in your 20s or 30s or 40s, I hope you can relate to some of these lessons and truths. Check out my free attachment library, where you can find some free journaling prompts, sheets, downloads, and lots of fun things, and also my courses, how to stop overthinking your relationships and how to stop obsessing over text when they don't text you back, because that's definitely a time wasting activity that only fuels your anxiety. So check out my courses, my free guides and cheat sheets in the attachment library, in the show notes or underneath the YouTube video. And I can't wait to see you next time. Remember, change in your relationship starts with you, thought by thought, action by action, and now episode by episode. Lots of love, Yula. Bye bye.